The Lord is in the business of conforming you to the image of his dear son. And he said, everything around you is working for your good. And what a favor God is doing for you to pick the greatest thing in heaven to conform you to. That doesn't even compute. How can this rich, blessed king with all the power and all the know-how and knows everything about you and knows what kind of sinner you are, his wish and his will is for you to be like his son. Then he orchestrates everything around you every day for those things to conform you to the image of his dear son. And part of that conformity is you see something happen and you're about to make a judgment on it to say, that ain't right. And then the Lord points the finger back at you and go, isn't that what you guilty of? You say, well, my wife she's this and that, finding all kinds of fault with her. And the Lord just kind of, well, amen. What kind of wife are you to me? That's inward looking. You know what? I'm not that good of a wife to him. How could I expect my wife to be a good wife to me? I've never treated him right, but he's always treated me right. Now, how can that be? How could he still be my friend? How could he still want something to do with me? We have no idea who this God is that's trying to have this fellowship with us and do so much for me. He's such a great God. Now look at this thing in verse 3. Shall vain words have an end? I can tell you, man, one day vain words are going to have an end. There won't be not a vain word spoken out there in eternity once you get past the great white throne. No one will ever say anything that's vain ever again. But in this case right here, the vain words is these three guys. You know why it's vain? Because they took something that was meant for them to examine themselves in the light of what was happening to Job and do something with that was going to make them closer to their Lord. Instead, they pushed the Lord off and said, God's still favoring us because we still have all this, and there must be something wrong with Job, some sin in his life for that to be happening to him. And they turned that thing to where it did them no good, and it did Job no good. It's a bunch of vain words. Listen, if you want to make words count and words mean something to you, turn it inward. God, am I guilty of any of this stuff that's happening to me? This happens on a daily basis. We told this carpenter, do this thing this way. And you go out there and he's doing it a completely different way. And that ain't how I told you to do it. Now I got to pay you to tear it out and pay you to put it back the way I told you to do it the first time. And it's costing me more money. And you start getting mad. Why can't you do what I tell you to do? You know, the way I told you to do it. And man, if you're listening out, you hear God talk. He'll be up there going, amen, amen.